up when their faith is broken!
Michelle McCool is one of the most underrated WWE wrestlers in history, and today we are going to look at the complete career of Michelle McCool and the evolution of her in WWE games all in one video. So sit back and relax as we go through the life and times and we show how Michelle McCool put the cool in McCool. This is of course BeachBytes and I'm BeachBurnBob, and we cover all kinds of wrestling on this channel, so sit back and relax as we look at the complete evolution of Michelle McCool in WWE games and in the WWE ring.
Right now on BeachBytes.
Michelle McCool's first appearance in WWE games was SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. At the same time in real life, she returned to the ring and made her debut on SmackDown on June 2nd, 2006. Playing off the real life experience as a teacher, she had a teacher gimmick. However, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 would be her first game. It would not be the teacher gimmick that we would get that was on television. It would be a mixture of her 2004 Diva Search contestant gimmick, where she did not win the competition but was signed a wrestler's contract due to her fitness background and being a natural in the ring. She did not make an appearance in SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, where we should have gotten the full teacher gimmick. However, it was SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 when the teacher gimmick made its debut and we got the full version of it. Funny thing is, by that time in the real life WWE ring, she had already transitioned from the teacher gimmick and moved on to the All-American Diva. After missing the cut in SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, she would not be seen as she was being sent back down to be repackaged. And while missing the game, she did make her return in SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. At the same time on screen, she came back to SmackDown as the All-American Diva, a repackaged gimmick which actually wasn't that bad. In a crazy turn of events, while SBR06 was the only version with the teacher gimmick, SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 was the only version that we ever got of the All-American Diva, a hybrid of what Michelle McCool would end up becoming later on down the line. But again, by the time that this game came out and she was the All-American Diva, Michelle McCool had already changed into the beginning stages of her present day just being McCool. And it was also on this run that she became the inaugural first ever WWE Divas Champion.
Michelle, a great softballer, looking to become the first ever WWE Divas Champion.
Becoming the first woman to ever hold the Women's Championship and the WWE Championship at the time. We are seeing the formation of the gimmick that would go on to define her. But it was SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 where we finally get the Michelle McCool that we know and love today. Not only was this her debut in the game series as this version of McCool, but we also got on screen where she was coming into confidence of becoming this character. And it wasn't long after that she began using a little known move as the Faithbreaker. SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 saw the last version of multiple versions of Michelle McCool. For SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, give us the full version of Michelle McCool that we know and love today. And it also brought in the very devastating move, the Faithbreaker.
No one gets up when their faith is broken!
For anyone that's watched wrestling for any amount of time, they would know that the Faithbreaker is just a ode or incarnation of the Styles Clash made famous by AJ Styles, but she put her own spin on it. Not only was this the first time in the video game series that the Styles Clash was in as a move, the Styles Clash was put into the game for the first time in the series. So if you were making cause of AJ Styles, you could go ahead and use this Faithbreaker variation to get the perfect AJ Styles finishing move, which was awesome for fans at the time. But in real life, she made the Faithbreaker her own individual move, putting so many opponents away and winning multiple championships by using this Faithbreaker. Let me know in the comments below who has the better Faithbreaker / Styles clash. Is it AJ Styles or Michelle McCool? But this brings us to SmackDown versus Raw 2011. Not only was the Faithbreaker in the game, but the model and attire and entrance and everything was spot on for the Michelle McCool that would go on forward through the series. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 saw the purest form of Michelle McCool and the closest up to date at the time that we've got of McCool. In real life, she had now formed a tag team with Layla to form Le Cool, which would go on and solidify her career with some of the antics that they pulled against Mickie James and the women's title at the time. But in 2011, this was the best form that we got moveset wise, but not the best model. And then we will fast forward all the way to WWE 12, where this was unfortunately the last time that we would see Michelle McCool in a WWE game for over 13 years. That is correct. This would be her last game, but it was the most purest form. Right, it would be her last game for that long. It's crazy that she was never put on the Legends roster after that. But where she ended her career there, it is a little bit crazy to me. She will finish her WWE career as a two-time women's champion, a two-time Divas champion, and of course the first
woman in WWE history to hold the women's title and the Divas Championship. Michelle was the first ever Divas champion.
Which brings us to WWE 2K24. After a 13-year absence, Michelle McCool has finally returned to the video game world, this time for WWE 2K24 as DLC. And although the new entrance motion is there, everything was re-mocapped and everything is fresh coat of paint on Michelle McCool. The attire and the entrance motion and everything has not changed from WWE 12. However, this is by far the best looking model and the best playing model of Michelle McCool we've ever had in a WWE game. I am so glad that she is finally back into the franchise for the first time. I just can't believe it took so long. The lasting legacy of Michelle McCool is amazing, and we haven't even touched on her tag team with Layla to make Lay Cool because there's so much history with just her by herself there. Over the years, she did go ahead and retire in 2012, and that was the last that we saw of her. She did make a return for the anniversary of Raw, and she has been a surprise appearance in Royal Rumble since then, and it proves that she could still go. One day she may return to the ring to give us a dream match against Charlotte or someone else down the line, but Michelle McCool is still the most underrated diva in the history of wrestling. Over time, she showed that she was in an era where no one was actually watching women's wrestling, but she was going out and performing women's wrestling at the highest caliber that she could. I could only imagine how great her career would have been if she would have had today's wrestlers to go against. But with all that said, even with the era that she was in, she stood head and shoulders above the rest as a wonderful wrestler that made everyone better in the ring and made her shine. If you stayed this long in the video, can you hit that like button for me? It sends it out so more people can see it. And if you like these kind of retrospectives on the wrestlers in game and in ring, comment down below if you would like to see more of these on other wrestlers. And if you like all this kind of wrestling content and want to stay up to date on today's wrestling news and in the games as well, hit that subscribe button. I thank you so much for taking this journey on with me as we discover the evolution of Michelle McCool in WWE games and the history of her in the WWE ring. Remember, make life your beach, and we'll see you on the next video.